Hello and welcome to Just Jets, episode number 291. What's going on? Matt O'Leary here, and Jet fans are pissed off, man. We're going to get into your reaction after the Jets Week 2 blowout loss to the Buffalo Bills, and just kind of some frustration boiling over, and kind of in this opening monologue, if you will, get into some defensive coordinator talk, because I feel like there's been some more ramping up things this week on Steve Wilks. So without further ado, let's just hop into this thing. I had a video earlier this week, I guess to an extent, coming to the defense of Aaron Glenn, talking about, who's to blame for the Jets losing in the way that they did. And look, I still believe that some in this fan base are being way too harsh on Aaron Glenn after the first two games, but the frustration is real, and fans want to see wins. I want to see wins too. I just think it might take a little bit of time, and losing to a team that's a Super Bowl favorite in the state that the Jets are right now isn't too surprising. Now, I too believe that it would be a much more competitive game than what we saw from the Jets in week 2, which is fair. That is an absolute fair criticism of this Jets team from what the performance they put out there in week 2. But what my stance on Aaron Glenn hasn't changed. I think we got to wait at least a year before making any declarative statements on the head coach who hasn't done it before. But there's some legitimate criticism, I think, going around on Steve Wilks that I will get into today. And with Steve Wilks, he's a veteran defensive coordinator. He's not a first-time play caller, not a first-time coordinator. So I think his criticism's a little bit more valid, and clearly the Jets have had issues on the defensive side of the ball. And for full transparency, look, like, I was okay with the hire because I think it's important to have a veteran on a staff for a first-time head coach, and Steve Wilks has been a head coach a couple times before, and a longtime defensive coordinator in this league. But there are some presenting issues through the first 2 weeks of the year with the Jets defense. In week 1, they stopped the run really well, but couldn't stop the pass whatsoever. Week 2, that kind of flips. This past week, they couldn't stop the run at all, and the defense clearly has to get ironed out. I'd argue that that's the most important thing that has to happen. Clearly, I know offense is important, and the Jets offense was just flat out disgusting this past week, but I have more faith in Tanner Engstrand and what he's implementing, as strange as that might be, because it's his first go at it. Watching back the tape, I did feel like there were guys open. The quarterback did not play well. And I'm more concerned from some things on the defensive side. Like, not only has there been struggles just overall, again, week 1 stopping the pass, week 2 against the run, but some of their guys who are supposed to be better players are not playing well at all. And it's the defensive coordinator's job to get the most out of his best players. Jamie Sherwood has not looked good at all through the first 2 games of the year. He was over pursuing Robert Saleh. I almost said Aaron Glenn after the game in his press conference on Monday was saying, after watching back the tape, some of the issues that he saw was over pursuing. And the first guy that I thought of was Jamie Sherwood. There are a few examples of that in this game, but just not at the same level that he was last year, which led him to getting a nice contract extension from the New York Jets. Same thing could be said about Michael Carter. Michael Carter hasn't looked good through the first 2 games of the year. And, they need both of those guys to play to their potential, because some other weak spots on this defense, the safety play isn't very good, and they're banged up right now at safety. Brandon Stephens has been horrible through the first 2 games of the year, and their depth at edge is coming into question already with Jermaine Johnson banged up this past week. We'll see how much he plays in week number 3. But I think the most disappointing was guys that you were counting on to be good haven't been very good out of the gate in Jamie Sherwood and Michael Carter. And that's not to say that it can't change. There's still 15 games left on the season for both those guys to get it on track, but not a very promising start. And for, Steve Wilks, I think there's some legitimate concerns when you look around his past stops and how they kind of performed against the run, this might be an issue that presents throughout the course of the season. I mean, outside his last stint in the NFL was with the San Francisco 49ers, and the defense was incredibly, incredibly talented. And against the run, they were top 10 in yards, points, takeaways, all that thing. But and they were great against the run in 2023, San Francisco. But historically, he's struggled as a defensive coordinator and head coach. In 2018 in Arizona, 32nd against the run in both yards and touchdowns allowed. 2019 goes to Cleveland after being one and done in Arizona. He's the DC there in 2019. 30th in yards, 28th in touchdowns. Then in 2022, 19th in yards and 21st in rushing touchdowns. That this could be an issue for, not just here with the Jets, but it's presented itself throughout his career as both a head coach and defensive coordinator. So I think my point is my question, I guess, is do we see Aaron Glenn get more involved defensively? Because this is Steve Wilks' defense right now, and I wonder if it starts to become more collaborative. I don't know if we'll ever see like Glenn go full, hey, I'm taking over the play calling duties. I don't know if we get that far, but Aaron Glenn did mention that this week he's evaluating the coordinators, and it's not a great evaluation through 2 weeks for Steve Wilks. For Tanner Engstrand, obviously really good in week 1. Week 2 would have liked to see maybe some better adjustments in the second half and just throughout the game, honestly. But, the play design, people were open. So with Glenn, the first 2 years in Detroit, the defense wasn't good. But in year 3 and 4, the Lions ended up picking it up defensively and were much better. They were 2nd in yards, 17th in touchdowns. And then last year, 5th in yards and 18th in touchdowns against the run, which is obviously significantly more competitive. And I think you can get by with that. And when you factor into all the injuries that Detroit suffered throughout the season on defense last year, and they remained competitive for so long, I think that goes a long way for a guy like Aaron Glenn. And people like to cite the total numbers as a coordinator for Aaron Glenn and like compare it to Robert Saleh, and Saleh had much more impressive defensive stats. And I won't argue. I think Robert Saleh is a better defensive mind than Aaron Glenn. I don't think Aaron Glenn was hired for like his defensive prowess to be this defensive guru like, Bowles or Rex Ryan or even Robert Saleh, but more for the leadership qualities and being a full CEO style of head coach. And his first test might be, hey, like Steve Wilks, it's not working on defense. I got to get more involved. And that might be the next play that we see. I don't know if it's this week, but I do think at some point we will see that come through. All right, let's do your voicemails before we get into it. We are brought to you by Sleeper. Think you know football? Then try to turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app, the ultimate fantasy sports app that can turn game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app and pick more or less on your favorite players with more stats than any other daily fantasy app. Just choose 2 or more of your favorite players from pregame or live. Pick more or less from the predicted stats. And if you win, you can win up to 1,000 times your money if your picks come through. Use promo code O'Leary and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. To your voicemails we go. Let's get into it. Vic from Florida up first. He called in the third quarter of this game.
Matt, Vic from Florida. Man, it's not even the fourth quarter. I'm literally calling at the end of the third quarter, and I'm here to say this is way worse than last year. I think Robert Saleh and company must have coached them all week this week. He's got to be in the building. How unprepared, how undisciplined, how unmotivated. This is atrocious. Now, I wasn't thinking that we were going to beat the Bills, but I mean, this is a completely different team than what we saw last week. Where do we go from here? This is bad. This is bad. Michael Clemens, he's gone. Has to be. I mean, he's got to be cut and make an example out of him. if Wednesday and this show airs and he's not cut, I'm dumbfounded because then Aaron Glenn just looks like he put his foot in his mouth. Well, just, I guess, venting per usual. Anyways, hope you enjoyed your afternoon minus this abysmal showing. Take care, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate
next year.
I appreciate the call, Vic. Thank you for reaching out and getting on the show here. I did a video on it yesterday, and I'm recording this, the pod. I always record it, Thursday afternoon, evening time to get it, edited and ready to go for Wednesday morning. And Michael Clemens hasn't been cut yet. And I don't think he will, not because I'm a Michael Clemens, sympathizer. I'm really not. I've been on the Michael Clemens ain't it train probably longer than anybody. I was not a fan of the draft selection. I was critical of his play his first few years in the league. And I absolutely hated that they thought last year they could get away with trading John Franklin Myers because Michael Clemens would give them enough at edge. I think that was one of the worst decisions Joe Douglas made. The miss at left tackle and quarterback is clearly bigger, but the breaking up that defensive line and breaking up that edge and thinking, we'll be fine without John Franklin Myers was just an incredibly all-time dumb Joe Douglas decision. It was a frustrating one. I thought they'd be in it more than what they were against Buffalo. Buffalo felt like they were toying with them towards the end, like Elijah Moore doing backflips and scoring a touchdown and throwing the ball in the stands. It's like, this is just, of course, this is going to happen against this Jets team. It's just, again, frustrating, and sometimes feels like you can't make it up. Let's go to Liam up next in Staten Island.
Hey, Matt. It's Liam from Staten Island calling from the parking lot after leaving with about 8 minutes left on the clock because there was just no point anymore. If the team's going to give up, if the coaches are going to give up, there's no reason why the fans shouldn't too. And I'm not someone who ever leaves early, but that was just pathetic. Seriously pathetic. When your MVP of the game debate is between the long snapper and the punter, you've done something just seriously wrong. My main gripe was, I could be getting the time wrong, but I believe there was about 3 minutes left in the third, 23-3. We have the ball deep in our own zone, 4th and 1, and you punt. You're down 20. You've had no offense all day. Your defense has been Swiss cheese and cannot stop Josh Allen in the slightest, and you punt. You have a chance to make this a 2-score game before the 4th if you drive down quickly. And you punt, you give up another touchdown, and now it's 30-3, down 27 in the 4th. And that's just, to me, that's giving up. That's waving the white flag. That's not fighting. That's not competing. And that's what I thought Aaron Glenn was coming here to do. He was coming here to compete and to make this team a serious contender. And it just seems like we're pretenders. That the Steelers game seems like an aberration. I have no clue how we performed that well. Either we're not as bad as today says we are, or the Steelers are really, really bad. One or the other. But I just want to get your take on the game and on that punt and not going for it. I know it's deep in your own zone, but let me know what you say. This season just feels like it's gone already. But as always, go Jets, 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 Jets.
Yeah, Liam, I don't blame you for leaving that game early. I don't go to a ton of games, but I'm not someone who likes to leave sporting events early either. But I think the last time I left the game early was 2021 home opener. They were getting their doors blown off by the New England Patriots in Zach Wilson's first home game. For the Jets, that was a real ugly one. But I wanted to spend some time on some of the decisions that Aaron Glenn made that I personally didn't agree with, settling for a 51 or 53, whatever it was. I think it was 51-yard field goal to cut the game to 20-3 when you couldn't stop them the entire game. It's like, that's not great. And then the punt I thought was significantly worse. You're down 20 at that point. You haven't stopped them all day. You're going to punt it back to them and let them go down the field and score anyway? Like, what's the point? play to win the game. It just felt very scared. And Aaron Glenn didn't coach that way in week 1. They went for the 2-point conversion early in the game after the penalty. I thought they were more aggressive. They went for it on fourth down, down by the goal line. Like, they were much more aggressive in week 1. And I just think he got in his head and was playing a little bit scared. That was my takeaway from it. Peter from Hudson Valley up next.
Hey, Matt. It's Peter calling from the beautiful Hudson Valley on this Sunday evening now, a few hours after the Jets get the doors kicked in by the Bills at home, 30-10. Oh, 45 seasons of watching this team and so much uninspired football. Love to have a team come out looking flat like that. Yeah, that's great. I don't know if you blame the coaches or the team or both in this particular case. Not that many positives in this game, although I would say that Tony Adams looked like he got shot out of a cannon in the first quarter, finally making tackles.
Yeah.
Until he got hurt and had to leave the game. KJ got injured, of course, so hopefully that's not too bad. And hopefully Fields' concussion is not too bad. Otherwise, we'll see Tyrod against Tampa and maybe Cook as his backup. One other small shout-out was, even though, Fields gave up that fumble when Bosa knocked the ball out later in the game, Briggs, who had sacked, knocked the ball out. I think it was Cook at one point. Unfortunately, the Jets did not recover that, but at least, the guy they just picked up recently is playing decent football. Yeah, not much highlights in this game. Glad Rucker got his first ever career touchdown. Forgot that, since he's been in the league several years, that he hadn't had one yet in garbage time. But playing so flat is not the way to win games, especially in the division. So they got to go on the road in Florida the next 2 weeks against Tampa and Miami. I guess we're going to have to see how this team rallies around this. One of my biggest takeaways, I think I even commented on your about it at one point, is they're down 20 in the third quarter and they're still running the ball. And I get that this team isn't really built for throwing the ball over the place and doing the same thing if they have to have a 2-minute drill, but you got to mix it up and not just brief ball, first down, brief ball, second down. They got to do something else, to kind of get the game going when you're down 20. So I guess my question is, what do they do to revive themselves at this point? Because that just was horrible. I don't know who's going to provide the spark, but somebody's got to do it. So let's see what happens next week in Tampa. And as always, go Jets.
Yeah, thanks so much for the call. And I do agree with you on a couple points that you made. Briggs, I thought, was a lone positive from the defense this week. I thought he really stood out. And while I was maybe more critical of Steve Wilks this week than Tanner Engstrand, one thing earlier on in the game, a couple things. On the first third down, Justin Fields misses a wide open Garrett Wilson. If he hits that, it's 25-yard gain, let's say. I think the Bills defense goes, oh, well, okay, we got to respect the pass a little bit more. They got a little too predictable on first down that they were going to run the ball, and I think the Jets knew pretty early that Fields didn't have it, and they only dropped him back 11 times. He had 11 passing attempts in this game, and I know he got knocked out, but moral of the story, they weren't throwing the ball, and he was 3 for 11 passing. I think you got to get some easy completions going on first down. If they're bringing the corners in to blitz on first down every time, take the 2-yard slant or the quick pass, get it in one of your playmakers' hands and pick up, not that it'll be a huge play, a safety come up and make a play, but take the free 5 yards and just, keep it moving, get positive down and distance on second and third down going. And then that would eventually have to back the defense off or take a shot down the field, which is something they didn't do really at all in this game. And again, I get it. If Justin Fields didn't have it, it was kind of hard. But that would be my biggest critique of Tanner Engstrand from this past week, is that they could have maybe handled what the Bills threw at them a little bit better. And I hope it's something that he learns from as a young play caller. We got Max from Jersey up next.
This is Max calling from New Jersey, and let's recap today's game. That was an embarrassing game. Embarrassing. And Glenn was like, oh, let's look at the tape, bro. That game was so embarrassing. How are you getting – I understand the Bills are Super Bowl contenders, but you should not be getting blown out 30-10. I'm sorry. Bro, in the third quarter, it was 33. It was so bad. CBS was like, oh, let's just move the game to a more competitive matchup. Bro, that shit was embarrassing. Fields was horrible today. 3 of 11 for like eight yards. Unacceptable. I'm sorry. I didn't like Glenn was conservative. Last week was aggressive. I'd rather he change this week to week. You punt it on 4th and 1 down 30. Why are you punting on 4th and 1 when you're down 30? Like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm just asking for a competitive football game. I understand last week you put 32 points. The Steelers' defense is horrible. The Steelers play the Seahawks say. The Steelers allowed 31 points to the Seattle Seahawks. Like, bro, Steelers' defense is horrible. I mean, I don't want to overreact to a week 2 game. Like, I understand it's Aaron Glenn's second game, but I'm sorry. Like, I've been talking about this summer. The penalties are still a problem. We hit 8 penalties, The Michael Clemens should not be on this team. 3rd and 19, roughing the passer. Bro, textbook definition, bro. He roughed the passer. That penalty cost us the game. Our offense is horrible, You didn't have a pass till a minute 53 left in the quarter. That is embarrassing. Like, all I'm asking is for the Jets to be competitive. Every day blown out. 30 times. Unacceptable. I hope this team hopefully this team can turn around. Because, look, if we keep playing like this, I think Glenn might be fired his first year. He might be a one and done. I'm not trying to overreact, I understand the Bills are a really good team, but I don't think we should be getting blown out like this. At least, even if we lose, I'd rather it be competitive like last week than a blowout. What's your thoughts on this, and go Jets?
I don't know if we're going to see the plug pulled in year 1. I guess it really depends on how the next 15 games go, but call me a Jets homer or optimist. I don't think we're going to see 15 more games where they're losing by 20 plus points. I think they'll be more competitive. This is a really tough part of their schedule. They have Tampa Bay this week. It doesn't get any easier, but then you have, you got some games against Miami. You have a couple games against New England, who hasn't looked great. You have, New Orleans and Cleveland and, some other Jacksonville hasn't looked great. Like, there might be opportunities for you to win some games, but it's just tough. It's tough when they play like this. I hate when they play this way because it's so hard to come on here and spin it any other way, especially while you're in the middle of a 15-year playoff drought. Scott from Montana.
Hey, Matt. Scott from Montana. Brutal loss today. Very disappointing. Fields obviously didn't play well, and we don't need him to play as well as he did last weekend, but he cannot play as poorly as he did today either. He's going to have to find some consistency. Hopefully he's not injured for that long. Hopefully he gets back out there next week, but I guess you just roll him out there every single week this year and see if he can develop a measure of consistency. And if not, you draft a quarterback next year in the first round. I'm not going to give up on the guy, but, his struggles today were just accuracy. I don't know if it was terrible decisions on his part, but his accuracy, everything was off people's fingertips. Coaching got out. Aaron Glenn, he didn't have us ready to play today, I don't believe, from the get-go. We got exposed. We're behind the chains from the get-go every single drive. First down, we couldn't figure out the corner blitz. It kept putting us behind the chains. Michael Clemens' penalty is, he'll be the next Xavier Gibson to go, in my belief. All he has ever done for us is commit huge penalties, and he'll be the next guy to get the treatment that Xavier Gibson got. And then 2 huge concerns I have are just, we knew going into the season our receivers and our DBs were our weaknesses, but boy, is it evident. Starting with the DBs, they can't cover anyone without holding. And even Sauce, who is the highest paid cornerback in the league, has 2 penalties and misses a sack on Josh Allen where it's just him and Allen one-on-one. That's just unacceptable for a guy who's the highest paid corner in the league. And the rest of the DBs are just, and now some of them are injured, but I don't know if it matters really. And then our receivers outside of Garrett, there's nobody open. Fields has no one to throw to, and of course when he does, he wasn't accurate today anyway. So I don't know. The final take is this: the Bills. We knew that we cannot compete against teams like the Bills and the Ravens right now. We're just not near good enough, and we got a long ways to go to be able to compete against teams like that. And the Pittsburgh game's misleading too, because look at Pittsburgh today. All they did was lose badly at home, and Aaron Rodgers played badly. So competing well against them is a little bit misleading in itself. All right, Matt. Can't wait to hear your comments. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Again, a tough one. Pittsburgh looked like absolute garbage. Rodgers made an unbelievable throw that was incomplete that got clipped 55 million times. I saw it on the internet this week, but he didn't play great. They made a horrendous special teams mistake. They weren't very good either. I think I'm going to give some pushback on the people not being open. I put it really more on Fields being late on everything. He missed Garrett. He was behind on Garrett on one throw on a crosser over the middle on that first play or first drive on third down. His first throw of the day was way too high for Garrett. He threw too high for Mason Taylor on what would have been a completion. He missed Isaiah Davis in the flat for a big play, threw it behind him. Clearly, the Jets need to address wide receiver for next year. That's somewhere that they need to get better. But this wasn't this game, I thought anyway, where it's like, man, they're just locked up and he has nowhere to go. No, I thought he was holding on to the ball for way too long. The pass protection held up well. He was late on the reads, and that's something that's plagued him, unfortunately, for most of his career. And it's on the coaching staff to figure out ways to get the offense to be just a little bit more competitive when these things tend to happen. Easier said than done, but that's when Fields doesn't have it, it doesn't look good. Eric from Brooklyn.
What's going on, my man, Matt O'Leary? Eric here, calling in from Brooklyn. Appreciate you taking my call. Yeah, what a terrible display put out today on the field. It was just horrible all around. Just horrible. There's no sugarcoating it. Today was just a night and day difference from what last week and week one looked like to what week 2 looked like. Now, I knew that Ed Oliver wasn't playing and that got out. So I wasn't really looking at that as like, oh, we got to take advantage, because the Bills still have some pretty good defensive linemen. I mean, Joey Bosa played pretty well today, and a couple other guys on their defensive line played well today. But what was most shocking and what was most disappointing was that we really could not get nothing going on offense last week. It was just like we were converting first downs. Justin Fields was running all over the place. Breece Hall was running all over the place. We just could not convert first downs. And that was the key factor last week versus this week. And what else was also disappointing was that our secondary was just getting fiddled with out there. It was just like they just did not know what to do. And Josh Allen was just being Josh Allen. You know, we were rushed for, and nobody would get home, and it was just our defensive line was getting pushed by their offensive line and just creating these holes just enough for Josh Allen to just escape and get out and, you know, just run for a first down and run for more yards or whatever. Also tackling. Tackling is still a problem. You know, just not very good all around. And when we were blitzed, we just was not getting home, and guys was just getting left in, you know, just getting left in the dust or just getting pushed around. And it was a frustrating display by defense and offense. We just looked very cold out there. I don't really have any questions or anything like that. It's just more of me venting and just, you know, we're 0-2. We got the Buccaneers next week. and hopefully it's a better game plan, and we're not cold, and
I hope not.
we put on a better display than what we did this week than the first week, and then we put on a better performance against.
I hope they put on a better performance. And you're venting, like, I don't really have anything to add because I think you summed it up really well, Eric. Tampa Bay, believe me, I'm not going to talk myself into the Jets winning this week. They're pretty banged up right now. They have some issues of their own. I think that's becoming pretty obvious with their offensive line, and Kalijah Cansey's banged up now, and Baker took some hits in that game, but I think they'll be able to throw on this Jets defense, and unless they get something in order ASAP, this has to be a good pass rush game, and they need more out of their big guys. They have to get more out of their big guys. Sauce has got to play like he did in week 1, and Michael Carter and Jamie and Sherwood need to play like they did last year, not like how they've played so far at the beginning of this year. Shane from Jersey up next.
Hey, Mr. Matt O'Leary, Shane from Jersey, giving you a call, first one of the season.
What's up, Shane?
Just absolutely brutal performance today. That was just disgusting. My question, I guess, is why should we have absolutely any hope? I'm like just completely numb and sad that we're right back to this again. This was so bad today. Our defense, it was supposed to be something, has been now 2 weeks in a row of Swiss cheese. At least the offense was fine the first week, so they're 50-50. Aaron Glenn, what has he done? Big Mr. Defense guy. Our defense is atrocious with some Pro Bowlers there. It's absolute Swiss cheese there. And next week we got the Bucks, who probably gonna slice us up and down the field. Baker and the receivers. I have no hope. Maybe Membu was good today. You couldn't tell. The offense could have moved the ball. Fields looked. Does he need to wear gloves like the first game? He was atrocious, missing throws, holding on to the ball for the too long. And then I don't know about you, man, but I'm like your average fan, average football knowledge guy, maybe a little more than average. But like I'm sitting there watching, and why aren't we spying Josh Allen? We played him how many times? Why aren't we spying him? Why can't when we blitz? Why can't we tackle him? The spy throws me up. And this team, we can't guard a screen as we've seen for years, no matter who the coach is. Any sort of play action bootleg is these guys have not seen it. I don't know how much. Thank God Dalton Kincaid, I think, dropped 2 of them. That would have been huge plays. We can't guard these elementary stuff. It drives me up a wall. And again, same thing. Clemens, the 3rd and 19, like you said in your post game, that's when you knew the game is over. Of course, it was over. So. Yeah, my question is, what do we have to be happy about? Because we start 0-3 and they don't look good. Glenn, he's not going to get back from me, and I don't know who else is going to back him. So, yeah, sorry for the rant. I wish I could call. I feel like every time I call you, it's negative. I wish I had more positivity. But, yeah, man, hope all is well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's thanks for the call, Shane. The play action, them biting on the play action is something they did in week 1. And it's something that they had issues with, again, this past week. And you're right, Dalton Kincaid did drop a couple that could have been big gainers for Buffalo. Aaron Glenn mentioned it himself, the over pursuit. And I think the linebacker play hasn't been good enough. And Jamie and Sherwood got paid a lot of money this offseason and a couple times was over aggressive. I think Jamie and Sherwood was the spy a couple times. There's a clip. If you follow Joe Blewett on Twitter, he does a really good job breaking it down on the film. And there's one where Jamian is waiting for something to happen, blitzes through the middle, delayed, right? Because he's on the spy and realized hey, Josh Allen's back dropping a pass. And then Michael Clemens gets pancaked. He's laying on the ground and Allen just goes, oh, I'll run to the right around Jamie and Sherwood. And that was the 40-yard run. The one really big run play that they led up to Josh Allen. So I think the linebacker play has got to be significantly better going forward. Jake from Jersey up next.
Hey, what's up, Matt? Jake from Jersey. Going to try to be a little bit of a voice of reason here. I know everyone's going to call in super hot about the loss, which is extremely frustrating to watch. But, I mean, there's going to be bumps in the road. It's
it's a new, fully new coaching staff. You know, tons of new players. I think it's going to just take some time to figure out, you know, who these players are. I mean, you look at some of the effort by some of these guys, and it's, I mean, again, they did come out. It looked like they weren't prepared, but you know, it is Glenn's first time being a head coach. I'm sure they'll get better from this. So I'm not out on them yet, like a lot of people already will be. But and Fields had a bad game. Pretty good defense. Yeah, I'm surprised our run D couldn't. Our run offense couldn't get going. But at the same time, it just looked like the Bills had such a good game plan against our run, and it worked. Like, you know, that happens. They're a well-oiled machine over there. You know, we're on our second start as this new team here, so you know, not fully out on them. We'll see how they bounce back next week on the road against the Bucs. That'll be a tough game, but I think that'll be a lot closer of a game. I'd say it's even a winnable game, honestly. We'll see what happens, though. I just couldn't believe, you know, the game could have started out so differently if Michael Clemens didn't hit Josh Allen late. And honestly, Josh Allen sold it pretty good.
He did.
That's a penalty all day in this league now. But realistically, if you watch it real time, it doesn't hit him that late. He gets him high a bit. But again, I'm not standing up for Clemens. I want him off the team. But I don't know, man. Just trying to be a voice of reason here. I'm sure they'll get better from this. Hopefully the coaching staff truly gets better and is true with this accountability stuff. We'll see what happens, though. I mean, we'll see. But, hey, man, go Jets. We'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Thanks for the call, Jake. That's all we can do right now is just hope that they learn from it and get better. I think you're right on the issue with Clemens is that he goes up high, and yes. Allen sold it, and there's many clips of Josh Allen selling hits, but you have to know the situation. It's 3rd and 19. You could ease up on it. You don't have to go up high on the guy. And that's the frustrating. And really 3 things. I'll give you 3 things from when I knew, and it was early, that this game was over. Fields missing, Garrett Wilson on the first drive, the penalty, and then the fumble, giving it right back to Buffalo. And you're in a 10-0 hole. You blink and you're in a 10-0 hole. This team is not built to recover from that. They flat out are not. And we saw it, unfortunately. It got ugly quick and they couldn't do anything about it. You got to hope that it just doesn't get ugly quick and that they stay in this game against Tampa Bay this week. Giancarlo's calling in from Arizona.
What's going on, Matt? This is Giancarlo from Phoenix, Arizona. Just wanted to get your take on what you think this wide receiver situation is going to look like at the end of the year. Because, you know, after watching that game against Buffalo, you know, when we can't get the run game going, that's, of course, going to be a big issue as we're going to have to rely on the running backs. But I don't know, man. I understand Garrett's going to get doubled a lot, and, you know, we need guys like Lazard and these other guys to step up as a wide receiver too. But even though it seems a little early to judge the first couple of weeks, I don't think anyone's really done that. What do you think about maybe mid-season before the deadline, maybe trading for a wide receiver? Are we willing to give up maybe a 3rd, 4th round pick to get a number 2 guy next to Garrett? Because, you know, nobody else was really getting open this week. I mean, Justin Fields was horrible. It was just a really tough game to watch. But what do you think about us, giving up some draft capital for a second guy? Because we knew this was going to be a problem at the beginning of the season, but already starting to be an issue. I know I'm being dramatic and it's 2 games in, but just wanted to get your thoughts on what you think. Thanks, man. As always, go Jets.
No, it's definitely it's not too early to bring it up because we talked about it a lot. Unfortunately, I don't think this is something that they're going to do in season. I don't think they're going to trade for a wide receiver. Josh Reynolds was out this week, and Josh Reynolds being out shouldn't completely derail your passing attack. But Allen Lazard comes in to replace him, and I'm sorry, Allen Lazard fucking stinks. He is horrible. The effort that he gave on some of those run blocking attempts were just flat out embarrassing. Flat out embarrassing. That's someone who probably should be cut. I mean, they need to get Brees more involved in the passing attack. They need to get the tight ends more involved in the passing attack. And, they did a good job in week 1 of getting Garrett involved early and often. But I think they need to, like Mason Taylor had a very quiet game and has had a quiet start. I think they need to get him going and more involved. Check it down to Brees. Get Braylon involved in the passing attack. Isaiah Davis. There's ways to mitigate it. And I just don't think that they're going to be in on like a Josh Myers. I love Josh Myers. I would love him on this team. There's a lot of wide receivers who you can make the case that it would be an improvement and you'd like on this team. I just don't know if they're going to think it's a good idea to give up the draft capital right now when there's a very real chance we're talking about having to draft a quarterback in 2026 and maybe even moving up to draft a quarterback. Let's close with PG from Long Island.
Hello, Matt O'Leary. PG from Long Island here. Thank you for taking the call. A couple things about the debacle we witnessed yesterday. Number one is I think that Justin Fields may have had a concussion prior to the game. They only found out about it in the fourth quarter. I think he may have hit his head getting out of the car at MetLife Stadium or something. That would explain a lot if, he had a concussion going into the game. Second thing is I listened to your YouTube today and yes, what did Jet fans expect? I guess you saw a lot of angry Jet fans on Twitter or whatever. I don't follow Twitter.
Better off.
I listen to, so I didn't hear a lot of that. But I can only speak for myself as a Jet fan. And what I expected was a competitive game. The Jets usually play the Bills very well at home. They came off a game where their running attack was tremendous. Going against the Bills team who in week 1 running defense was not good, and then they also lost Ed Oliver. So reasonable expectations going in there, even if Justin Fields only played 75% of what he did, but, week 1, you have a competitive game. What I didn't expect was for the Jets to come out without any effort, without any discipline, and being outcoached on all sides of the ball, which is what happened. Now, look, I'm not calling for any heads to roll. I know it's just one game in a long season and hopefully a long tenure with Aaron Glenn as the head coach, but it's very disappointing. I know you're disappointed yourself, but it's very frustrating. And, I just expected a lot more. I expected a competitive game. I do have a little concerns about Wilkes, not discarding his defenses and the defense in general, but really that's what I expected, Matt, was just a competitive effort, which they didn't get. Anyway, your thoughts, and as always, go Jets.
Yeah, and look, I thought it'd be more competitive too, and I understand that frustration. They were worked up and down the field in this game. They were, and it's embarrassing to see that happen in your home building. I think, unfortunately, when your quarterback's 3 of 11 passing, that's also going to make things really difficult for you to be competitive too. And they have a tough test coming up against Tampa Bay, which is good. Like, this is where we're going to be turning the page now to focusing on this game coming up this week against Tampa. That's a good defense. Todd Bowles is going to be able to stop the run. They're going to blitz like crazy. They have an offense that could pass the ball down the field at will. Baker's a gamer, man. I love watching Baker play. He's a good football player. It doesn't get easier. Now, I don't think Tampa's on the same tier as Buffalo, but they're a playoff team. They're a very good football team. And, I just need to see a better effort this week. I think it would do everyone some good if they have a better game this week, even if it isn't resulting in a win. Guys, that'll do it for me in this one. Appreciate you hanging out. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll catch you guys next time.